Welcome, everyone. I am Glenda Dawson, and this is LD, and we are live on Glenda's Dragon's Den on the Conscious Awakening Network, which is on Roku TV, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, and other streaming platforms like Spotify, YouTube, and Facebook.
Oh,
So,
I'm on fire.
welcome. We just wanted to say quickly thank you for everyone that's been following us and watching us every week. And
Except that one guy. He knows who he is.
and we uh, try to bring great guests like tonight's guest, phenomenal. I'm not going to say much about him. Let him tell you all about him. Hi, Matt. Welcome. How are you today?
No pressure.
Yeah, no pressure, no pressure. Hi, how are you?
Good.
Thank you so much for having me on. Happy spring equinox.
Yes, happy to have you.
Happy full
Happy
moon.
we
Happy
had.
everything. Happy new astrological years. Like everything's on fire today. So
Yes.
not literally, but yeah, really good. But thank you so much for having me on. For your guests, my name is Matt Hillier, also known on social media as the Humble Bear. And my job is to help people and empower people to find happiness, to find joy, to find abundance, to find peace in their own lives through various different modalities. It's really just to bring joy to the world by sharing the tools and techniques and modalities that I've used in my life that have taken me from suicide to bliss most of the time, and actually, happiness and peace. And it's really for me is to help people on that journey with their mental health, on that journey with their spirituality, on that journey with every part of their being. Really, I like to tackle all parts of it and not ignore anything, because for me we are three-part beings, but it's kind of balancing all of that. And I've been blessed with some skills and some abilities and some experiences that have allowed me to facilitate that for people.
Sounds very good. So tell us about your favorite modality that you use.
So do you know what my main modality, the thing that I use the most, and the thing that I in my life and in my clients' lives, in my friends' lives, in my family's lives, is cacao. That for me is just an untapped resource for physical, for mental, for spiritual health. For those of you that don't know what cacao is, because this was new to me a few years ago, I was like, I don't know what this is. Is it chocolate? And the guy was like, no, it's not. I was like, it looks like chocolate, and he's like, no, it's what chocolate comes from. And I was like, oh, okay. And then as I've explored it, as I've learned more about it, I've realized that it is so much more than just chocolate. This it's a plant medicine. It's a gift. It's a gift from Mother Gaia, from Mother Earth to the human race, to help us really to return to homeostasis, to return to balance, to realign with nature, realign with the parts of us that we've just kind of lost connection with. For me, it's just phenomenal. It's one of the most nutrient, like on a physical level, it's one of the most nutrient dense foods on the planet.
Mhm.
It's packed full of magnesium, which is responsible for over 300 different processes within the body. It's got calcium in it. It's more calcium in it than cow's milk. It's got packed full of antioxidants. It's like 15 times more antioxidants than blueberries. So it's got potassium, all loads and loads of different minerals and vitamins that as human beings we need in our lives. And so it's really good for that, as from the effect it has on the physical body. It's literally clears out our heart. It's a vasculator and a dilator. So it opens the capillaries, it opens the arteries, it helps the flow of oxygen around the body. And it's amazing. It's really good for blood pressure. It's packed full of flavonoids. I know in 1944 they did a research paper in Panama where they studied the Panama Island, and they studied inhabitants that were drinking it every day and ones that weren't. and the ones that were had significantly lower blood pressure. But it also works well for low blood pressure. It's like a blood pressure kind of equalizer. It's like amazing. Genuinely, anyone who's got any heart problems should be drinking it. Which is, yeah, my mum, for example, she's had a couple of heart operations and a stroke. She drinks it every day. It makes her feel really good. From a mental perspective, it contains a molecule called anandamide, and ananda in Sanskrit means bliss, and so it's one of the only foods in the world that contains the bliss molecule. So it's like a natural antidepressant. It's a natural mood enhancer. You just feel great drinking it. Anyone who's listening who's had it can certify. It's like, yeah, it's like having a cup of love in the morning. You know, we always say, you know, you can have your coffee and it's like a cup of anxiety, or you can have your cup of love. Like, which you prefer? But what I'm most interested in, and what I use it predominantly with my clients and my friends, is because from a spiritual perspective, it's a heart opener. It helps us open the heart chakra, and it helps us to invite in more peace, more love, more forgiveness, more compassion. Like, for example, I've sat in a cacao ceremony and I've forgiven all of the women in my life that have ever hurt me. And I've been crying these cathartic tears, you know, and releasing all of it, and just bringing in that forgiveness. All of those things that we're missing, you know, we've been missing in our lives for so long. It helps us, you know, from the plant medicine perspective, from like the family tree of the plant medicines. If you have one, it's the mother, it's the nurturing mother. So it's like, it really does feel like your mum's giving you a hug whilst you're having a little cry or a little laugh or a little dance or whatever it might be. You know, it's like this great. It's a great facilitator for any kind of spiritual practice. You know, I use it with meditation. I use it with sound healing. I use it with I'll be singing mantra, drumming, shamanic drumming, yoga, like any kind of modality, because it helps us to relax, because it helps us to sink into ourselves. It enhances all of those different practices. And so I see people who come to see me and I introduce them to cacao, because a lot of them come in and go, oh, no, I don't like dark chocolate. It's a bit bitter. Or, oh, you know, and I'm like, you haven't had this. That's like going to an awful coffee house or like getting some Nescafe, right? And having, do you have Nescafe in the US? Yeah. Like instant coffee. And then go, another one, I'm not keen on coffee. It's like, but if you go down to the artisan coffee house down the road that sells really nice coffee, it's going to taste nice. You know, it's like that. It's like you haven't had, just because you've had it once doesn't mean you've had it then. And like the amount of nutrients that's stripped out of our chocolate before it gets to us is phenomenal. Like the way they process it, the way they roast it on a really high heat. You know, they strip out the butter. They send the butter to cosmetics companies to make lots of skin creams and stuff, which is nice. But that nutrients within the cacao is just so beneficial for us. Like, it's a superfood. It's a superfood. It's like amazing.
Just to be clear,
yep.
Because I like to be clear, this is not the secret ingredient that a major soft drink manufacturer had to eliminate.
No.
Okay.
Cacao grows in pods on a tree in around 20 degrees either side of the equator.
20 degrees
Celsius. All our chocolate comes from. It's what all our chocolate comes from. It comes in beans that look like, they're like cacao beans. They look like coffee beans. They're ground down into a paste, and it looks like a chocolate bar. It looks just like a chocolate bar, and it's very similar to dark chocolate. It's just got all the nutrients still left in it. It's not.
But you understand. Just so I want to be clear with know people that are not informed. So I don't want that because that's it. You know, this is different.
Not, let's just say it's not cocaine.
Right.
Thank you.
There you go.
Cocaine was a big part of my story.
Yeah.
It was a big part. My addiction was a big part of my story. If you're interested in learning how I came to this,
yes,
but it's definitely not that.
We're interested in learning anything you want to share with us, Matt, because you are our guest for this hour, and we want people to embrace all of you.
Yeah. Well, let's start at the very beginning, as they say in The Sound of Music. So my journey, I suppose, my journey started at birth, but my journey, or probably before then, if you believe in past lives, but my journey into this stage of my spiritual evolution started in 2018 when I was, I'd always been scared. You know what? I'd always been fearful as a child. I can remember being like 5 years old, always really scared of what people thought of me, always, trying to be something I wasn't, trying to fit in with a crowd by just being something else, whether that be the music I liked, whether that be the clothes I wore, whether that be the way I spoke, everything. I'd change anything to fit into what I thought people wanted me to be. And it evolved into some quite damaging behaviors, where I ended up being quite addicted to the gym. I ended up using a lot of steroids to try and be something that I wasn't, try and be bigger, to try and be bolder, to try and look all good on the outside so that people didn't know how bad I kind of felt on the inside. It also led me down the path of drinking a lot of alcohol, and I always drank what I now understand to be alcoholically, as in I was either sober or completely like annihilated. There was no in between for me. It was like I just had a switch, like boom, I was drunk, and it also led me into substance addiction as well. And I'm now, now looking back at it, I understand that was my escape. That was my solution that I had at the time. And so in 2018, everything came to a head. I ended up trying to take my own life. It got really, really dark. I was fed up with the damage I was seeing around me that I was causing, or that I perceived I was causing around me. And I didn't know anything about spirituality. I wasn't spiritual. I wouldn't have classed myself as spiritual. I'd have classed myself as an atheist. And probably would have taken the mick. I wasn't very nice back then, so I probably would have taken the mick out of anyone who did have a spiritual belief and kind of like belittled them. Now, probably because I felt threatened in some way by them.
Right.
But that's who I was then. I was very angry back then. My rugby friends used to say that I was like the Hulk because I was always angry. I would have told you that I was the calmest person in the room, because I thought, yeah, no, I'm not angry. I'm not, I'm absolutely fine. But it all kind of culminated in 2018 with his suicide attempt, and now I look at that. I look at that moment. I look at that point in my life as probably the best thing that has ever happened to me, like hands down, because it accelerated me onto this path. Like I like to use the elastic band analogy. Like the further you pull that elastic band into the darkness, the faster it flies into the light. And that's been my experience. I hit rock bottom. I couldn't get any lower. Like I ended up in a rehab center in London, England, and actually, I thought I was going in there for anxiety and depression. I joke sometimes and say I was going in for anxiety and depression, and I left with 10 addictions, because as they started to unravel my life, they were showing me all the areas in my life where I would do whatever I could to avoid feeling anything. And by this point, I had labelled every feeling I had as anxiety. Like I could be happy, I'm anxious. I could be sad, I'm anxious. Everything just felt anxious. I had psychosis. I would be standing at a window for about 8 hours, convinced that a SWAT team were going to come through the window, which is quite ludicrous, because they really weren't bothered about little old me. And they weren't going to send a SWAT team, that's for sure. But it culminated in this moment where I had that snap, and they call it like an internal snap, and I ended up in this rehab center. I remember walking in. Actually, that's a lie. I didn't walk in. I remember being dragged in, and I saw the 12. It was a 12-step rehab center, and I saw the 12 steps on the wall, and I got to step 3 where it said the word God, and I said, this isn't the right place for me. In fact, I think I said, I'm on the wrong course. I think I need a different course. And they were like, okay, we'll see if you can they must have heard it so many times. We'll see if we can change you and, move you on to something more appropriate. And it's like, now it's like, I love what the 12 steps did for me. I love that journey that I went on. I was sitting in that rehab center, completely broken, like a shadow of the man that I am today, quite literally. And a friend of mine in there said to me, why don't you just try praying and meditating? Like, just give it a go. And I said, no, don't do that. I'm a beer drinking, coke sniffing, rugby playing, that's who I am. That's what I do. And he said, look, Matt, I'm going to be really honest with you. You haven't stopped crying for a week. You can barely stand up. What have you got to lose? And he said, look, you can even just do it in your room. Just go in your room, 10 minutes. Ask for help. Ask whatever you believe that higher power to be, because I didn't have a belief at that time. You know, even if it's like a dead relative or nature or the universe or just something that isn't you, because you are the one that got you into this space. Your mind, your ego is the one that got you here. Don't be asking that. You know? And so I did. I started, and it really changed. Things started to drop in my life in that environment. You know, I class myself as really lucky to have gone to a facility like that, where I enabled me to remove myself from society, to remove myself from responsibility, and to be able to actually go inwards without distracting myself. And
did it enable you or did it empower you?
Empowered me, yeah. Sorry,
Thank you.
Empowered me. Yes, yeah, you're right. It empowered me to be able to do that because it's something I couldn't do before. I couldn't sit still. I couldn't, you know. Well, I say I couldn't. It was a challenge for me to sit still. It was a challenge for me to go inside.
Mm-hmm.
And so it'd be things like I'd be sitting in a room with the sealed room with someone, and a feather would somehow float down from the ceiling where there's no feathers at all and land on my leg. And the guy sat next to me is like, I don't understand where that came from. You know, feathers were following me around this place. There was a rose that quite literally blossomed in front of my eyes. Wow. And I was just like, wow, like what I didn't understand what it was. I just knew it wasn't me. Mm-hmm. And I started developing this concept of a higher power, you know, call it God, call it universe, call it whatever you want to call it. You know, it's just a word, but that higher power that I was like, wow, you know what, there's something in this. And so prayer and meditation started to become an integral part of my life. And I went through the 12 steps. I believe that everyone should go through the 12 steps. It probably should be part of the schooling curriculum, to release people's fears and their resentments. You know, I had a lot of resentments. I think over 200. I wanted to get everything out. It's like, I just want it all out, you know? And so I went through this process, coasted for about 18 months in the fellowships. When I say coasted, I was praying and meditating, I was doing service, and I was helping out there, but my spiritual life wasn't progressing loads. You know, I was doing kind of the base level. I was doing enough to get through. Mm-hmm. And the universe gave me a massive kick up the arse. Through a twin flame experience, which a lot of people think twin flames are, oh, I'd love to meet my twin flame. I honestly hope you never do, because it's horrendous. Yeah, it's like, oh my God, my head was just mental for about a month. It was the mind. I couldn't understand why the mind was so powerful, and so like the mind was so powerful that it was causing me physical pain. And what happened is I stumbled across a guy in America, mm-hmm. Called Kurt Johnson, who ran a group for Twin Flames. And mm-hmm. and I remember waking up at 2:00 in the morning, like with this head on me, going, I've got to sign up. I'm just going to give him my money. Like, and then I sent the money, and I was like, for this course, and I was like, well, that's the last time I'm going to see that. Like, it's definitely a scam. It's not, you know, and it wasn't. But as soon as I got in that, what they actually taught was presence. What they actually taught was, you know, I literally lived for a year after that. I lived my life by Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now. You know, I lived my life in the present moment, studying the present moment, you know, working out. I had an alarm on my phone that used to go off every 15 minutes so that I could check where I was. Was I actually in the moment, or was I in my head? And if I was in my head, what was so interesting in there? And did I really care about it? Because 99% of the time, I didn't. It was just nonsense that I didn't need to be thinking about. But it really accentuated my metaphysical abilities. I started to tap into energies. I started to be able to feel things. You know, someone would pop into my mind, and I'd call them up, and they'd be like, "Oh, yeah, I'm having a really bad day," or "I was just thinking about you," and you know, all of these things that I believe are innate abilities in all of us shut down. You know, my belief is that they're somehow held in the 98% of our DNA that is, you know, labeled as junk DNA. Instructions for all these things are in there, and you know, that's my belief. No one, people can have their own beliefs on that, but that's how I feel, and that's what resonates with me. But what happened is then, almost a year to the date, someone called me up and said, "Do you fancy starting a coaching business?" And I was like, "Okay, cool, that's no worries." Then I managed to. Someone else bought me a laptop. So I manifested a laptop. Oh, I was thinking the other day, I really need a laptop. And then someone was like, "I want to buy you a laptop," and I was like, "Okay, well, that can happen." That can happen. And I was playing around with manifestation and stuff at this point, you know, Abraham Hicks and playing around with that kind of stuff at the time. And I was like, wow, there's something in this. And then I met my now best friend, Liam Brown, who now owns a cacao company. At the time, he was running yoga retreats. He's a yoga teacher. And, you know, I saw him, I was around a friend's house doing some work. And this guy who I was doing work with, he has ADHD. So trying to get him to do anything was like really challenging. And he wanted to watch this interview. And I literally was just like, whatever you need to do this work, just do it. Just, I don't care. Just whatever you need to do. And so it was Liam talking about his book, I think. And I just straight away, I was thinking, I just knew I needed to message him. And, you know, by this time I've been tapping into my intuition. I've been working on, you know, really listening to that innate, that quiet voice inside, the voice of the soul that kind of says you need to do this. The one that's a lot quieter than the one up here. And I was like, oh, so I messaged him and he said, I know that the government have put some restrictions in place, but we're running a yoga retreat anyway. Do you want to come? Okay, so I was like, yep, great. So I drove the whole length of, I know it's not far for you American guys, but I drove the whole length of the country, which was about 5 hours, which is very different from what you've got over there. But to this yoga retreat, I'd never done yoga in my life. I think I'd done it once in rehab, and I just refused to do it and fallen asleep because I was just still a bit of an arse back then. And he sat me down and he, you know, welcomed me, and I was late, and I'd been driving a lot up the motorway with all these signs saying "Stay local," and I was like, "Yeah, cool." This is the beginning of 2021. So I'm like, "Yeah, cool, no worries. Of course, I'll stay local." It depends on the classification of local, right? They gave me a massive welcome. I really felt like I was at home. And he said, "Right, now we're going to drink cacao and we're going to meditate for 5 hours." And I was like, "You're crackers. Like, what? That doesn't make sense." But I'm here, you know, I'm here to experience everything. I knew there was other things on the roster like cold water therapy and a lot of yoga, breath work, that kind of stuff. And I thought, you know what? I've not done any of this stuff. I'll just give everything a go. Now, I came down from that cacao ceremony a very different man to who went up. It was in an upstairs room. And I liked that it's not psychedelic for anyone who doesn't know about cacao. It's psychoactive, so it helps us to release those things, but it's not psychedelic anyway. You could have a full cup of cacao and go and drive your car very safely. It can give you, if you're tapped in and you're able to tap into metaphysical elements and have visions and stuff. Yeah, of course it will enhance that, but then you can open your eyes and go about your day. You know, I drink it every day and I function, and it helps me function. Like the way it works by increasing the oxygen flow to your brain, you're actually functioning at a high level. So I got introduced to cacao and cold water therapy, two of the things that I now use like every day in my life. And that really just kick-started my journey. And I was up and down the country after that every other weekend when I didn't have my little girl, sitting with cacao in ceremony and learning about it and helping my, you know, to release the parts of me that I needed to release. And, you know, people have asked me, you know, why do we need all these plant medicines, right? I think someone asked Liam, a religious person, said, "Why do we need these plant medicines?" It's like, because we're not running out of time, but we need to jumpstart this thing. You know, there's the philosophy that in 2032 is the end of the process from what started at the end of the Mayan calendar. We're now halfway through, and You know, 2032 is when we need to be 5D ready. You know, remember when your TV was HD ready? Yeah, 5D ready.
Correct.
And so it's like that's why they're coming out of the jungles now. They're coming out of the jungles to help us to step up, to release what needs to be released, isn't it? I'm not saying that it's for everyone. You know, everyone's like there's multiple paths up the mountain. That's the beauty of life. Multiple paths to the mountain, whatever resonates with you. But for me, cacao has been phenomenal assistance in that, and enabling me to release the stuff that I never even would have looked at because I was too scared. I didn't feel safe to. And yeah, so that was my journey. And then in the cacao ceremony, I wanted guidance. I was like, I know I'm here to help people. I don't know why. I don't know how. And I really want to find that purpose. And so I sat with my mother cacao, and in my vision that in that ceremony, Mother Cacao came to me and she was like, this is what you're supposed to be doing. This is your purpose. Your purpose is to be serving this as a medicine, you know, and sharing this with the world. And so I was like, oh, and it was like, right after the ceremony, go and speak to Liam. And then I went on some like really nice meditation. She like put me through some really nice galactic kind of, I'm quite galactic when I speak a lot of light language and channel a lot of things like that. And that's been due to cacao as well, but we'll get into that maybe later. And then yeah, so within a month I had my first ceremony booked, and you know, I've assisted Liam setting up this cacao brand. He gets cacao from Venezuela, and it's the most amazing cacao that I've ever used. And that's not because he's my mate. That's genuinely like, we tasted hundreds of cacaos. Some of them tasted like old boots. Some of them were, and this one was particularly nice. The energy was so pure and so heart opening that it was like, this is the one, you know. And it's been a blessing. We've just been on tour. I've literally got back today. We've been on tour around the UK, taking cacao ceremonies all around the country, and just sharing this magic with as many people as possible.
Now, is this the same basic concept that the Mayans?
Yeah. So my lineage comes from Guatemalan kind of area where Liam met a guy called Keith Wilson, who is probably like he's probably responsible for bringing cacao back into the world, into the Western world.
Okay.
Because as we all know, that South America got a little bit decimated by certain Spanish people, and lost a lot of these practices. A lot of these traditions were lost for a long time. And he was visited by spirit and asked to go and find cacao and bring it back out. So he went into the jungles. He went and found the people that were still using it traditionally, still using it in ceremony. He went and experienced that with them and learned about it, and then came out. And then Liam met him in San Marcos in Guatemala, where he was living. He said he was walking down the road. He was there for ayahuasca, and he was walking on the road, and some guy said to me, "You need to go and see the cacao shaman." And he was like, "Cacao? What are you or the chocolate shaman? You go and see the chocolate shaman?" "Oh, mate, I'm not here for chocolate. What are you talking about? I'm here for the hard stuff. Like, I want to change my life." And he's like, "No, go and experience it." So he went and experienced it, and it changed his life. And he's been working for 10 years, and then he introduced me to it. He now does his own like facilitator training with it as well, which is phenomenal, which I've just been on to kind of upgrade myself as well. And so that's where kind of my lineage comes from. So, and probably 99% of the people serving cacao in the Western world, that's where their lineage comes from as well, because he was responsible for reigniting this medicine, you know, bringing it. They say that the spirit of cacao comes out of the jungle at times when the human race is out of sync and out of balance. And I don't know if you've noticed recently, but we're a little bit out of sync.
A little bit.
Just a little bit.
Well, the public education model is to get everybody to walk down the right side of the hallway, or you know, maybe in the UK it's the left side of the hallway, but the same side of the hallway. Yeah. And to get into that box.
It's a government indoctrination camp.
Right. And so maybe that's not the right way to be. You know, maybe we all need to bring the unique part of ourselves. And it sounds like you're engaged in doing that, and that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, and what I understand my responsibility now is to empower the feminine, and I don't just mean the feminine as in women. I mean the feminine in men as well. That divine feminine, to empower that part that's been suppressed for so long. You know, the part that's been, we live in a patriarchal society. We can't deny that. And that's not bad. I'm not saying that's good or bad. It's just how it is. And this is it's actually perfect because it's part of our evolution. You know, I don't look at any of this stuff and look at it as bad. I always look at it as quite exciting and just part of the evolution. Everything's perfect. You know, there's a line in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous that says either God is everything or God is nothing. You know, so you can't say, well, that bit's divine because I like that, but that bit isn't because that's the bit that triggers me. It's like, no, it's all divine. It's all part of the plan. It's all part of this evolution, this learning. And now it's this, you know, we've moved into the age of Aquarius. It's like we're the age of the feminine, the rise of the feminine, and that's within all of us. That's not just in women, and in that, you know, getting out of that wounded masculine state, out of that fear, out of that control, out of that need to make the outside world how we feel it should be. You know, it's that having power, having power without the need for force, without the need to force it on people, just being powerful in ourselves, in that sovereignty, in that this is who I am, and I'm good with that, and I'm going to share that light with the world. You know, and balance, but also balancing that, because in the spiritual community, like I see a lot of people that almost gone too far into the feminine, and then it's a bit chaotic because, you know, when you look at the philosophies, whichever philosophy you follow, you know, if you look at the Hindu, you've got the Shiva and the Shakti, right? Shakti is the creative energy, the feminine energy, which without the balance of the consciousness, without the balance of the centeredness, is chaotic. And it's like within us all, there's that, you know, and it's really important for me. It's really important to share with people that and enable them to tap into that parts of themselves and work on them parts of themselves.
Right.
You know, to bring
Again, enable them or empower them.
Empower them, always empower.
Okay.
Just
Trying to keep it real.
Yeah, no, always empower them, because we are truly, you know, divine beings in our own right, and it's a beautiful world to be in at the moment. I know it doesn't always feel that way, but I find it fascinating to watch, you know, how these parts, you know, because I see what's happening with the government, for examples, in the world. And, you know, if you look at I like etymology, I like the history of words, and you look at the word government, it means to control mind. And for me, that's just we're all fractals, and that's just a higher fractal of the state within each of us. You know, it's like, if I can overcome the ego, if I can balance with the ego and not be in an egoic state all the time, then that will impact, you know, it's like, be the change you want to see in the world. You know, if that keeps happening within us, it will happen in the rest of the world. It happened in the outside. It's like, you know, that what's the Chinese philosophy with it? I can't remember the word now, but it's like, as within, so without. That's it. As within, as above, so below. It's like that, you know, and helping people with that, and whether that be through getting them to drink cacao, which is a particularly nice way of doing it, or with energy healing. You know, I'm an energy healer I'll say by trade. It sounds like I'm a builder, but you know, I do energy healing, healing people's land, because the land needs lots of healing as well. So many different aspects, whatever resonates with different people. And I love that there's so many different facilitators in this world, and they've all got their own unique, like, resonance and their own unique vibration. And it's like, you know, because I don't want just any clients. I want my soul clients, the clients that resonate most with me. I don't just want, you know, if I don't want to go and pinch someone else's, you know, because that's not in alignment. And it's like, there's so many different modalities, so many different little tweaks that is perfect for the fact that we are all so different.
You know, back in the 60s, there was a little rock group that said, all you need is love.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's hard to explain how powerful that is in its simplicity.
Mm.
But in its pure simplicity, that's really, many paths, one truth.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And my experience is the more I open my heart, the better the world I am, and the better the world is around me.
Mm-hmm.
I follow a lot of Michael Singer, and he talks about the heart a lot, and and how a lot of the time when we're triggered, we're trying to stop these energies getting into the heart.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, all they want to do is flow up and out. That's all they want to do. And that's, for me, that's what all these modalities are for. They're for allowing that energy system that we built these little early warning systems in it, because at one point something happened and it hurt, right? So, put an early warning system in there. And then when the energy comes up and hits that in a certain way, we feel triggered. But all that energy wants to do is come up and out. And as I, from my experience, as I allow that to happen, the next time I'm not triggered, or I'm triggered a lot less,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm better because I'm then able to respond rather than react. I'm able to come at it from a space of I'm actually okay with whatever just happened, and therefore I can bring the best energy to this. I can actually see what the moment in front of me wants of me,
Mm-hmm.
rather than being like, oh my God, I've got to stop this fear. I'll do whatever I need to do to stop this fear. That's how for me, I know from my experience, that's how I lived most of my life, was like trying to change the outside world to in order for me to feel better, which just was like an impossible job, right?
It's so much more interesting when you allow it to empower your soul, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
And that's why I'm sorry I keep coming back to it. But yeah, I mean, I'm not big on enablement. Empowerment, yeah, I can get behind that.
Yeah, I think when I'm talking about enablement, I'm talking about, it's almost like sometimes it's giving people permission to tap into that power. Right. It's like the Marianne Williamson poem. They are they are powerful beyond measure. You are powerful beyond measure. Right. And what they truly fear is that. That really resonates, that poem with me. It's not that we're too small that we fear, it's that we're too much.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's giving, if I use the word enable, it's like, no, I'm helping them see that they can be who they are. Right. I study a lot of yogic philosophy, and in yoga, there's a niyama, which is santosha, which is contentment, and it's being content with wherever we are. Because for everyone out there listening, you are exactly where you need to be on your spiritual path, regardless of how your mind might tell you you're not far enough along or whatever. You are exactly where you need to be, and that's that. And if you can become content with that, then you can move on to the next niyama, which is tapas, discipline. And it's then we can put in the practices in order to evolve. But from a place of contentment, not from a place of I'm not enough, therefore I need to meditate 10 hours a day or whatever your practices are in order to get somewhere. It's like, no, I'm content with where I am, but I want to improve this within me or this within me.
Right.
So it kind of ties into the Maslow hierarchy of need as well, the pyramid of self-actualization. And while those that want to control want to keep you in the lower vibrational levels of, how am I going to get through this?
Yeah.
Well, maybe the way through is up.
Yeah. And that's it. And, I do a lot of mantra as well. I love Indian mantras, and I love the Ganesh mantra, Om Gam Ganapati Namaha, because for me, it's like Ganesh shows you that not only are you the obstacle, but you're also the way, and the way is through. And it's like my friend says, it's like you're water, and you're flowing down, and you get to a rock, and you're like, oh no, there's a rock. What am I going to do? And you're like, oh no, what am I going to do? And then Ganesh comes down and says, dude, you're water. Go around it.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, of course, I'm water. And you
Yeah.
go around, and a little bit further down, he comes in again and goes, mate, you know that rock that you really struggled with? And you're like, yeah. And he's like, you put that there. Oh, yeah. It's like all these obstacles. Oh, yeah. I put them there. And I love to chant it. I've got mala beads, so I chant it like 108 times. And it really does help me shift that vibration. I do use it in ceremony as well to help people let go of stuff, because he's a remover of obstacles. He helps people let go. He's also got like an elephant's head, and he rides on the back of a mouse. So he kind of teaches us, like, just don't take life too seriously. Like, have fun with it.
Right.
Which is like,
And isn't that how we started today?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Lighten up.
Yeah, it's like someone said to me, when you're meditating, you can meditate with a smile on your face. You don't have to be so serious.
It's like letting go if you
unless you're doing
drag.
Zen meditation, in which case you need to be really serious and stare at that wall.
Awesome.
Well, it's like a lot of people say to me, "Oh, you got this music, that music." I meditate to Pitbull music.
Yeah, why not?
And I should sit there, and it takes me to the place I need to go to, and that's it. And everybody's looking at me like, "What? Don't you have to?" Nah. Yeah. Whatever resonates with you, that takes you where you need to go.
Exactly.
And gives you peace.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
and there's different, that's why there's so many different tools, so many different modalities. A lot of people, when yoga, most people think is stretching. That's like one art. The asanas, which is what most people know as yoga, is like 1 out of 8 limbs of yoga. It's like one small part of it. And actually, all they came from, if anyone looks into it, all that came from was to enable you to sit up straight with your back straight, your chin parallel, and focus on the point between your eyebrows. That's all that's spoken about in the Yoga Sutras. The asanas aren't, the stretches aren't in there. They just help you get there.
Right.
So you can sit there and do the pranayama, the breath work, the everything else, and hopefully reach samadhi at some point and be levitating down the Ganges, which would be nice.
There you go. So, now, what other modalities do you use?
So one of the things that I've been blessed with is I channel light language or soul language or whatever you want to call it, like speaking in tongues. So within my energy healing, people come to me for energy healing. It involves me speaking light language. It involves I'm a Reiki master, along with most of the spiritual community, but Reiki master, Angelic Reiki, Theta Healing. So I'm attuned in all of those areas, but the modality that I use is very much intuitive. It involves shamanic drumming. It involves sound healing. It involves crystals. Whatever comes to me. Sometimes I'm like, oh, the other day I had a feather. Ended up with a feather in my hand. I was like, I don't know where that came from, but it needs to be used in this specific location. I was like, okay, cool. I also use I've got a frequency healing device that's based on Nikola Tesla's research, and it's got access to like 144,000 different frequencies, and it can play them for different purposes, different programs. So you might have one for the root chakra, or one for the heart chakra, or one for just general health, or there's hundreds of different programs. So I intuitively tap into what that person might need, whether this be remotely, or if they come to me remotely, or if they're in person. I'm able to play that into their bioenergetic field to help balance whatever they need support in balancing within themselves, whilst I'm doing energy healing and talking, channeling light language, which is also very healing. So it's like a super powered healing modality that shifts people. I'm honestly feel so honored to be even able to do half of it, let alone, I did some healing on someone in the ceremony, because it always comes into the ceremonies as well. So on Saturday I did a healing on this guy, and he was like, my whole body was vibrating. And then we were actually staying with him as well. And then the next morning he was like, I was traveling with aliens. I was lucid dreaming. I was like, it kind of activated all this stuff in him, and he was like, it was phenomenal.
And light language just brings so much peace.
Yes.
And joy, and you could feel that love just, it's like the ultimate love language, I call it.
Yeah, yeah.
Be-
And when it first started coming through, I was quite scared of it. I didn't know what it was. You know, it came to me in a healing session, and I was suppressing it. I didn't
Right.
want to. I was like, oh, I don't want to disturb people, or you know. And then it took me about
Right.
9 months before I was just like, I can't keep suppressing this. I've got to let it out.
Right.
And after I started, my life just took off.
Mm-hmm.
Because as I was healing people, I was healing too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because of that interconnectedness, all that, you know, quantum
That
entanglement.
symbiotic relationship.
Exactly. So it's something I've been, very blessed to experience.
Yes, it is very powerful.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's been within us for a long, long time.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
a matter of getting to that moment where actually, like you said, allow it to come out.
Yeah. And I had, because I had wanted to be a channel. I think ever since listening to Abraham Hicks, I was like, I want to be a channel. I want to do that. You know, it resonated with me. I don't, not for everyone, but I was like, so I've
Right.
been saying, you know, I'm ready. You know, I'm putting it out there to the universe. I am ready. And I thought it was going to come through as, you know, like Abraham Hicks. I'm going to start doing that. I didn't
Right.
realize I was going to start speaking a strange language. But yeah, just blessed, absolutely blessed.
Mm-hmm.
And now I do activations with it as well. So I activate other people into, you know, some people come for healing. I'm like, right, you know, what do you want? They're like, I just want to speak that language. And I'm like, we can do an activation. That's fine. Like, you know,
Yeah.
and I do them online. I do all kinds of stuff.
Very good. Right.
So where do people find all of this?
So you can find me on Instagram as _humble_bear. I'm always sharing stuff on there. I share a lot of stuff from my life. That's whatever's coming up in my life, sharing it with
Right
you
there.
guys. Yeah. Or you can go to my website, which is www.humblebear.co.uk. And you can find all of my events on there, whether they be online or in person.
Mm-hmm.
All of my healing modalities on there as well. So all my services, everything about me really, and how to get in contact with me. If anyone ever just wants to reach out and have a chat, maybe they've been through things that I've been through. Maybe they're going through things that I went through. You know, it often works with me that a client will turn up and they're like, I've got this massive problem. You know, whatever's happening, and I'm like, oh, I had that, and it's like, here's a map of how I did it, and it's like, and that's what I mean about empowering. It's like, I show them how I did it,
Right.
but it's down to them.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right.
Well, everybody has to do their own work.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
So,
you can facilitate, you can empower, but ultimately,
Yeah.
exactly. You lead a
how
horse
about
to
now?
water.
Exactly.
So basically, you did an awakening while you were in the rehab center.
Yeah,
Or was
that
it
was my
more?
first.
Okay.
That was my first. I kind of had two kind of dark night of the soul experiences. That was the first one.
Right.
And that was, you know, for me, there's probably several times in my life where the universe has tried to wake me up, but I'm Taurus. I got my double Taurus. I've got my sun. I think it's my sun and my north node. Oh yeah, sun and north node in Taurus. And I was born in the year of the bull, so I'm pretty stubborn. And so it needed to give me a big kick, and it did. You know, and that was the first one. And then the second one was when, you know, I really kicked me onto this spiritual path. And, you know, I'd been to a healer, and the healer had said that her guides had come through and said, you think your journey's been like rocket fueled? Wait until you see Matt's. You know, it's like someone lit the touch paper and it's going to go into the stratosphere. And at the time I was like, little old me, what are you talking about? Like, you know, that's not me. I'm just normal Matt from well, I was in Brighton at the time, from Brighton. That's not me.
Right.
And then, you know, as I've seen my journey, I'm like, okay, yeah. And it's been intense, don't get me wrong. You know, last year I had a whole week where the universe conspired to trigger me to refill all of the emotions that I had around my suicide attempt. Because what I'd done back then was try to escape and suppress and not feel it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, it conspired to bring up all of the fears, all of the rejection, all of the abandonment, all of those really deep things. And I knew at the time I had to deal with this differently. And so for almost an entire week, I laid in bed. I didn't do any yoga. I didn't do any breath work. It was just meditation. That's all I did. And I just felt. That's all I did. Just allowed those feelings, like we talked about earlier, that allowed those feelings to flow through. Observed the mind, observed whatever was going on, and knew it wasn't me. It just needed to get out. And I was kind of like, I'm fed up with all this stuff in here. Fed up with this baggage. I want it gone. And that was, truly empowering.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's residue that needed to come out.
Exactly. Yeah. So, it's like I like to talk about it as like a helium balloon, and it's like it's tied to a rock, but in order to to release the rock, you need to look down at it.
Right.
See where you're cutting. See what you're releasing. And once you do, the helium balloon just does what any helium balloon does and just floats up. Mm-hmm. That's the soul. The soul just wants to float up, but you need to look down to be able to. Yes, that's the bit I need to release. That's the bit I need to let go of. Mm-hmm. This is the bit that's holding me back.
So you took your turn.
Yeah, exactly.
Very good. And don't want to say this to you but we do go through a few of those.
Yeah.
It's not a just one-time deal. I wish it was.
Well, I love them now. Yeah. I love these experiences now. I love getting triggered. My girlfriend thinks I'm nuts because because when I feel that trigger, I'm like, yes, this is an opportunity to evolve. This is an opportunity to rise up, to be better, to be lighter. Right. Because all of this, that's all it's doing. It's just wanting us the universe just wants us to ascend. Mm-hmm. Like, we can just let go of it. Okay, yeah. In whatever way that resonates with you, it's just like, yes, set yourself free.
Exactly. Step by step.
Exactly.
And soon you'll be where you need to be. And then they'll say, okay, you've been there long enough. Okay, let's start it up again.
Yeah. And normally when I'm in a good space, I'm like, come on, give me something. And then it hits me. I'm like, why did I say that?
Yeah.
You know what they say, be careful what you wish for, because you might just get it.
Yeah. No, sometimes we have to just think of, okay, I need a break.
Yeah.
Time out for a little bit. Just let me recoup,
I don't know. I'm a sucker for punishment.
And you know that whether we ask for it or we tell them we need a break, they're going to give us those opportunities whenever they feel that it's the right time.
Exactly, yeah. And listen, this we talked a lot about the darkness, but this journey is amazing. It's brought me the love of my life. Yeah. It's brought me, my soulmate, and I'm phenomenally happy. Yeah, don't get me wrong, we trigger each other, but it's such a beautiful relationship where we work together on these things.
Mm-hmm.
Jay, I wouldn't know about triggering each other.
Absolutely not.
But what a blessing. That's what relationships are for. It's like
to bring those little things that we need to work on.
Exactly.
So we can release it and we can become better.
Exactly.
All around.
And we can help so many more people. Right. That's what I'm all about. Just supporting, empowering, and inspiring other people to be the best that they can be. And if that means that I have to go through the darkness, I have to go through whatever I need to go through in order to inspire people to do the same, I will do that 10 times over.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we've got about 5 minutes left. What do you want to do with that 5 minutes? What do you want people to know about you?
Guessing it's just, I'm here. Mm-hmm. I'm here to, like I said, to support, to empower people. Anyone out there who is going through stuff or who resonates with whatever I'm talking about, I'm always around. to talk in whatever whatever form. We've got so many different forms of communication these days. I get lost, but they're all on my website, so you can find my number, you can find my email, you can find my everything on there. But yeah, just I suppose it's just for people to keep going.
Right.
Whatever it is, whatever the universe is throwing at you right now, it's never. I promise you, it's never too much, ever too much, and there's always a way out of it. There's always a way through it. There's so much support out there in whether that be going down to your local meditation center or whatever you've got around you, or jumping online. Most energy healers will or coaches will, and the blessing that COVID gave us was that it gave us the ability to reach cross continents. I've healed people in Australia, I've healed people in Trinidad, I've healed people in the US, I've healed all over the place. And someone in France the other week, it's like, don't even have to be in the same location. Quantum physics is now showing what us spiritual people are like. Yeah, we've known that for a while. Yeah, it's like monks in Himalayas have been like, yeah, we kind of knew that. And so it's just, I suppose, I just encourage people to reach out. You're not alone. You truly never have been, and you never will be alone.
Exactly.
And especially for men as well, because I know from my experience that I really struggled to reach out. I really struggled to admit that I was struggling with mental health, and it almost killed me. And so it's just to encourage men to just, even if it's just one person in your life you can just speak to about this stuff, or if it's just a stranger on the end of the phone that you could just get to know him, just, I need to talk to you about this. Whether that be me, whether that be you guys, whether that be whoever, just if you're struggling, reach out, and the help will always be there. It'll always be there. In whatever way, shape or form, the universe knows you need it.
Yep. It's one of those things, like, they say when you're ready, the master will show up.
Exactly. And it's so mad because I always say that, life, we live it forwards, but it only makes sense backwards. It only makes sense in reverse. Oh yeah, I can see why that happened now. At the time, it's like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. Why this is happening? And you look back and you're like, oh, no, it makes sense.
You're right.
Well, I want to thank you for coming out of hibernation.
Yes.
And joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for being had. And we appreciate your patience and showing up and being here and making yourself available.
Right. Because
everyone has their own way of moving it forward.
Well, I'd like to say thank you to our audience. Thank you for following us. Please keep showing up every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, or you could always watch the replays, YouTube, everywhere. Even Roku has them there forever, basically.
Wow.
So
it may feel like forever.
I'd like to thank everyone. God bless and enjoy. Have a good one.
Thank
Bye.
you.